Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 125. Super Bowl recap. The 2025 championship between Eagles and Chiefs went a lot differently this time since their rematch 2 years ago in the big game. So, you being obviously an Eagles fan through this whole ride, man, long season, a lot of games, a lot of ups and downs in your mind. I know that we talked about it week in and week out. Um, Sure to tell me, how you're feeling as a Eagles fan right now, bro.
First off, I want to start by saying, congratulations to you because I know you did win the pick'ems in the regular season, but that's your regular season award. You feel me? Postseason, I think the is the only game I got wrong, the Commanders and Lions game.
If we're
I'm
talking
not sure.
postseason, hold on, bro. I
No,
beat
no,
you
no,
the
I will have to
last
go
two
back and
years. All
check.
right, all
But
right.
regardless, I took the postseason pick 'em by a landslide. Honestly, you could maybe even give me a couple extra picks because I remember the last couple games I made you pick the Eagles. So if anything, that's an extra point for me because you wanted to pick against them. So I
I
mean,
I want to say, bro, I picked against the Eagles every single game, which in hand gave the Eagles every single win this postseason. So you
well,
say that
maybe
yeah,
maybe
I
you
was
should
sort of
start rooting against the Dolphins or Browns and maybe they'll
uh,
start winning
yeah, I
some
can't
games.
do that,
But
bro.
that's a different conversation we'll have, during the off season, whatever, on what those organizations need to do. But you're right, man. Let's talk about the team in the moment, man. The Philadelphia Eagles. Crazy game. I mean, I feel like it was only a good game if you were an Eagles fan, and I guess, a Chiefs hater as well. But I'm glad it was my team in the Super Bowl playing against the Chiefs because if it was any other NFC team, I 100% would have bet Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to beat that other team. So, thanks to my Eagles for making me on the right side of history. But yeah, we could definitely get into it. I think obviously the big story, the big takeaway of this game was the Eagles defense and how they were able to pretty much make Patrick Mahomes play his worst game, like of arguably like of his career. I think I heard a stat saying it was his second worst passer rating, I believe, of his career, like in any game he's ever played. So I mean, the second worst game he's ever played was in the Super Bowl in the biggest moment, which is up to this point very uncharacteristic of Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, we could definitely get into that first.
I would say that was his worst, outside of the late game points they put up. I mean, that was watching that Bucks Super Bowl against the Chiefs, where the Bucks won. Even then, Mahomes was able to have some success. He was absolutely shut down for 3 quarters of this football game, and he looked horrible, like atrociously bad. It wasn't even like you wouldn't expect him being, as great as he's been in his career, that bad.
Yeah, and we can get to the Chiefs, but I think from the Eagles side, when you're looking back on this, and it's funny that you say this, like you said it earlier, like major ups and downs during this Eagles season. It was mainly just one down and then up. Like before the bye week is where we really started to see, some not want to say questionable, but you know, in the moment, in the time, we didn't really know what was going on, but we're not in the locker room. We don't play for the Philadelphia Eagles, so we're on the outside looking in. But obviously, they were working through some things. You got to think, a new defensive coordinator, a bunch of new players, first time playing together, two rookies contributing on a major part, and Cooper DeJean not even playing in the first couple of games. So I think they were still trying to find their footing. It wasn't like the offense where all you did was just insert Saquon Barkley and into any offense, you can just put a running back in and they're going to be able to have success. I think on a defense, when you're running, the Vic Fangio, he asks a lot of that defensive line, asks a lot of those corners and safeties to play a lot of different zone coverage, match coverages. I mean, it definitely takes time. And I know going into the season, myself included, and all the Eagles fans were like, "Oh my, like a week 5 bye, like that's so bad, like it's too early, blah blah blah." But I mean, it worked out perfectly for this Eagles team. This is exactly what they needed. The two games they lost before the bye, Saquon Barkley drops the pass on fourth down. He catches that. They win the game against the Falcons. Defense on their heels, not expecting to be back on the field. Kirk Cousins kind of has, the last hurrah of his career to this point, goes down and wins the game. Drake London with the game-winning touchdown catch. And then on the road against Tampa Bay, that entire team just didn't seem in sync. Jalen didn't play a good game, and I don't know. The Bucks have kind of just been this Eagles team's kryptonite. They haven't really had success to them. They lost to them in the playoffs. Lost to them again this season. Todd Bowles has definitely been able to give Jalen Hurts some credit on the offense, and things just weren't able to click there. But they have the bye week, and I think some major changes happen. One obviously being, Avonte Maddox moved to the backup nickel and inserting Cooper DeJean. And I mean, we can get into Avonte Maddox and the big play he made, but throughout the season, Cooper DeJean being inserted, him being, I think PFF said, including the Super Bowl, he was the highest rated cornerback this entire season. So like a rookie corner coming into the slot, you remember all last season how like just how bad this coverage was. Like no one could, like we just couldn't stop anyone. And then you add Quinyon Mitchell as well on the outside, a true number one corner, guarding number one receivers. And I think Slay was kind of able to work into that number two role. And obviously I think both guys, like, neither one of them traveled. I think Slay always plays on the left side. So they're taking turns guarding number one receivers, but it just that added element, So that you add in CJ Gardner Johnson, he comes back. True, up to the very last game, boomer bust player, but when you surround him with some more talent, I think he was a lot better down the stretch, made a couple big plays. I think he led the team in interceptions this year as well. Reed Blankenship, he's been a staple since he started. And then obviously my defensive player of the year, Zach Bond, I think who's, just an unsung hero, arguably I mean, can you say greatest free agent acquisition or signing like of all time? Like it has to be in there. I mean, we could kind of probably think of a quarterback or somebody, but I mean, on a vet minimum, a guy who's been on the practice squad for the Saints his entire career, not really getting much snaps on defense for the Saints. And when he was, he played a lot on the edge, didn't really drop back in coverage for the Saints. He comes over, wins the starting job in Philly and makes all pro, first team all pro and third ends up third in DPOY. Like that's just an insane story. Like stuff like that just doesn't happen after all. And then I'm not gonna sit here and go into the entire defensive line because I mean we can go like seven, eight players deep. You saw in the Super Bowl, I mean a bunch of players just stepping up and making plays and you know, I was very skeptical in the beginning of the season because of what you were telling me about Vic and what was going on down there in Miami, and seeing what happened down there in Miami, to where season just didn't end on a good note. You get what I'm saying? So I went into the season with an open mind. I was thinking, Vic Fangio, obviously he has the pedigree, he has, the head coaching experience. He's been doing this for a very long time, but I went in with an open mind, still skeptical because of you. But I mean ever since the bye week, that defense exceeded every single expectations, and I don't think you win this. The Eagles win the Super Bowl without Vic Fangio and the way this defense has been playing all year. To me, and I've been saying this, like this defense, the way it's been revamped, is like 100% the reason this Eagles team was able to have success and win games, especially down this postseason, especially in the bigger moments. I mean, we know what we're gonna get from the offense, but defensively, compared to last year, it's just night and day. It really was.
Yeah, with Vic, I think what helped a lot was that Eagles being so young. Uh, his problem was the veteran leadership in the locker room. They weren't on the same page with him down there in Miami. Obviously, things worked out horribly for Vic in Miami and that entire defense. They haven't seemed to be right. Javon Holland, one of those guys that wanted Vic out right after he left. He had the worst season of his career. Um, and he was a below average corner or below average safety when he was, top five, um, arguably top 10 safety in the NFL before this season. Um, so I think those young players, they bought in and they rode with him. And then, the veteran presence of Slay, good job leading on the outside. And then that D line, you got guys like Cox, or excuse me, BG, veterans. Sweat, he's been in the league for a few years now. Um, and I think that obviously you mentioned Cooper and Bond, obviously two tremendous games, but I think Sweat on the outside, man, he had his career game, rushing off the edge, creating pressures. I think he had what 2.5 sacks in the Super Bowl. Obviously, that
Mhm.
whole D line ate against the Chiefs. Creed Humphrey, all pro, top center in the league. He was getting exposed. I saw a couple times that game. And even when, that Eagles defense, Jalen Hurts had that one turnover down in the red zone where the free rusher uh, came right up the gut, turned the ball over, and it was like, okay, maybe Pat Mahomes gets something going now. I think it was a two possession game at the time. You're like, he could swing down the field. He just got stopped, and I think it was Quinion Mitchell had that hit Travis Kelce in the flag. Maybe it was Noah Gray.
I think it was
Uh,
no great, yeah.
Noah Gray,
29.
he laid him out. I was like, who is that? And I get up and I see it's Quinion Mitchell. I was like, no way, lockdown corner cover guy, skinny. He's not big. He laid a big hit down, and I mean, it was a big one, big momentum swing, and I mean, you could get in the Chiefs' woes, the D Hop drop, the early, PI call down the field against AJ Brown, um, stuff like that really swung momentum. And you thought for a second the Chiefs might be going in the right direction, but that defense stepped up every single play, um, and they just made it happen, man. Cooper DeJean, first career touchdown on his birthday in the Super Bowl.
First career interception.
Yeah, first career pick two, pick six in the Super Bowl against, Patrick Mahomes. So I think he's riding right now pretty good into the sunset, into the offseason. He's feeling himself. He's ready for a contract extension after year one. So
Yeah. And I think you mentioned Josh Sweat, and at this point, this is where you got to give, Howie and the front office and all those guys. I mean, as much as it might pain me to say after this season, you can't argue it. Nick Sirianni, you got to give those guys credit in terms of team building and being able to find talent because down the stretch, especially in the playoffs, the two big contributors was really Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith had a sack in every single game in the postseason, and Jalen Carter, the big highlight plays against the Rams, back to back, pretty much game sealing plays. Whenever you see a highlight from the Eagles defensive line from the interior, it was always Jalen Carter. And Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter both had really disruptive games. They both had, pressures on the quarterback. Nolan Smith had a really, really good run play rep where he just blew up one of the pulling guard or the pulling tackle and pretty much stopped the play and caused a tackle for loss. But in terms of like production and actually getting to the quarterback, it was guys that, that Eagles fans and people around Eagles knew were good players. They just haven't put it onto tape yet or onto the field yet. And when you see someone like Josh Sweat, who yeah, he started off strong, but he kind of disappeared a little bit down the stretch. Not saying he was bad, but didn't really have the production. 2.5 sacks, had the big pressure on the Zach Bond interception when he pushed Tooney right into Patrick Mahomes. Jalen Hunt, a third round rookie, he had us, I believe, a sack and a half, getting pressure all over the place. Moro Jomu, Milton Williams, they were kind of, benefiting off of Jalen Carter getting a double team. They were winning their one-on-one reps. Milton Williams with a big strip sack. He's a pending free agent. I don't know if the Eagles are going to be able to keep him. He's going to earn himself a nice little paycheck with that big game. Josh Sweat as well. But when you look at, guys down the line, I mentioned Jalen Hunt. Going into the season, he was, a rookie played safety 2 years ago in college. He came from, I think, like the University of Sam Houston or Texas Christian, some, very small school, drafted in the third round. And going into this year, he was like third on the depth chart behind, a Bryce Huff, a Brandon Graham, Huff getting injured, not really producing as much. And then Brandon Graham, we all know he got injured. Hunt had to step up. You look at someone like Nolan Smith, kind of disappointing, Everyone was saying he was a bust already, taken late in the first round. He definitely flipped the switch, turned it on this late in the postseason. So, I mean, guys that were just stepping up all over the place. Milton Williams, he's kind of been, the solid number two behind Jalen Carter all season, just feasting on those one-on-one opportunities he gets because Carter's getting double teamed. And then I mentioned Moro Jomo. He stepped up big time, had a couple really big plays as well. So just it shows, you got to have depth upon that D line, especially when you rotating those big guys out. Jordan Davis, I didn't even mention he had a big sack as well in this game. More of a run stuffing D tackle, but when those edges are pushing the pocket and Mahomes and those quarterbacks like to step up, he's such a big body. He's just there, able to get that second clean stuff up. So when you look at the defensive line, there's no really star player. There's no, Miles Garrett yet. There's no Max Crosby. There's no TJ Watt, none of these super big names. But you have, a really solid group of guys that are able to play very well together and that understand what they need to do. And, it was, I think this game was like 100%, especially on the defensive side and even the offense. We can get into that as well. But, when you think of a team win and a team effort in terms of, completing one goal from the front end to all the way to the back to the safeties. Like it was just the pinnacle of a team effort from what you saw all year from this Eagles roster. I think everyone played their best game on defense up to this point, and it kind of all came together like perfectly.
And I think they made the Chiefs one-dimensional early. I think it was the second quarter. They had three runs, four running plays, something like that. And I mean, as a D line, they drop back. You know it's a pass. Makes it a lot easier to get after the quarterback. You don't have to count for the run like you do in a typical game where if you do get that run game going, established, don't fall behind so big so early. I think the Chiefs got away from it a little bit too early, allowed that the pressures just to settle in and let that Eagles D line absolutely feast on them and kind of expose that entire O line. I mean, it, there was nothing they could do at that point.
Yeah, and you kind of saw it early on as well. Like I don't think they got their first sack until I want to say like the second or third drive, middle of the first quarter, I believe, or maybe even the second quarter. But the pressure was there early, and you saw Mahomes miss like some really routine throws that we've seen Patrick Mahomes make his entire career effortlessly. But you can kind of see the footwork. He was kind of speeding things up. Could say he looked like your boy Baker back there in the pocket to where he wasn't really trusting his own line. He wasn't trusting what he was seeing, and he just didn't look too comfortable in that pocket from the very beginning. You saw him, doing everything he can, scrambling around, trying to extend the plays as long as he can. But ultimately, when you're a quarterback and you don't trust the protection, you don't trust that O-line, and you're speeding your internal clock, and your feet aren't really getting as set because you feel like you're going to get hit from one way or you're worried about pressure from another side. Like it's just not a very comfortable position to be at as a quarterback, and you can't really play your cleanest football. And I think we saw that very early from Mahomes because I mean, how many times have we seen him miss Kelsey on a short little out route or a sit over the ball, miss D Hop a couple times, like the ball wasn't really there, like it just routine throws we never really see Patrick Mahomes miss, and that's to beat these super, super elite quarterbacks. You look at guys like Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, all of these, upper echelon level quarterbacks is, you got to be able to disrupt them in some way. You can't let them just sit back and do what they want to do. You can't let them dictate the game they want to play. You got to make it uncomfortable for them. And the Eagles did a great job by doing that, not blitzing at all, only rushing forward and having everyone else back in coverage. So, I mean, it's literally a recipe for disaster to where you're getting pressure and yet you have seven guys covering, four, five receivers. It's going to be tough to win football games that way. And I mean, if you could ask any defensive coordinator, how would you want to play football? Like, no strings attached, like nothing, like just your ideal way of playing football. I'm pretty sure all of them would say get pressure with four and be able to drop everyone else back in coverage. It's just a recipe you can't beat. We haven't seen anyone overcome it. So, I mean, Eagles did a great job, had a great game plan executing. They knew the Chiefs wanted to do the quick game. They took that away early. And then once the Chiefs got down behind, the Eagles kind of felt like they could just, play their brand of football on the defensive end. So, a great, great, great defensive performance and execution on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think they got away from that quick game a little bit too early as well. I mean, There's so many things like you could maybe nitpick about the Chiefs. Was it Andy Reid's best play call game? Probably not. But Mahomes, his interceptions were horrible. I mean, there were defenders right there. Like this is routine stuff that he was missing. And you mentioned him
I
missing
would
those
say the
throws.
first one, the pick six was
What?
that was horrible. He just didn't
Yeah.
see Cooper DeJean, and that comes to, having everyone
Even
dropping coverage. You kind of saw DeJean was just like in open space, so he didn't have to
mhm.
cover anyone. He could just sit back and read Mahomes' eyes. The
Even the
second
Bond
one,
pick.
the second one, I wouldn't really say that was on Bond just because, he got his tackle literally got bench pressed into him.
Yeah.
So that definitely affects the throw. Maybe, does he
We
still get the ball there? It's a tight window, 100%. I'll give it to you. Could he fit it in? I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. We've seen him make some crazy throws. Is it a pass you'd expect him to make? Maybe it'd have been difficult, but once again, you have the free defender lurking in the back with eyes on the quarterback, able to read and react. It doesn't help that, you have a left tackle being bench pressed into you by Josh Sweat. I get that, but yeah, I mean, maybe throw the ball away, ask Mahomes to hold on to it, but I mean, he's not expecting to have his left tackle be in his lap when he's trying to throw a 7 yard, slant in route, crossing route. So yeah, I would say the second one, there's definitely blame to go around. Not really as much on Mahomes, but it's definitely, he deserves some blame. He threw the ball, but yeah. The first one to Cooper DeJean, I think was that one was definitely just a bad throw. He just didn't see DeJean.
Yeah, and then throws behind him. I mean, even late in the game when they were down, I think it was like four scores at the time or whatever it was, and they go ahead and have the little out route on fourth down. And it was just behind. He was behind on the ball of the play. Your boy AM made that was just horrible ball, and I mean it is sort of the same thing all game for Mahomes, and that sort of sealed the deal. I mean, after that it was like you knew the game was out of reach. Momentum obviously was all Eagles, and once you saw that, it was just you knew. I don't know whether Mahomes was just flustered all game, but it's something we've never seen from him in that big of a game and the biggest stage. Certainly, people were talking about the GOAT debate and whatever. Like it's out of the question now. Um, Still think Mahomes is really young, but that Eagles defense embarrassed him, and put it at the very least.
Yeah, it was like I said, man. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better performance on the defensive side of the ball. Now,
Nope.
to the offensive side of the ball, I'm so excited. I'm so happy. You know why? Because you will never have to hear me reference 2022 Hertz again. It'll be 2025 Hertz, 2024 Hertz. That's gonna be the new reference, man. Um, Offense played great. I think since the first drive, you
NFC
mentioned it.
champion hurts. You could say that now.
The ticky-tacky call, on the AJ Brown pass on the first drive. Didn't really feel like it was offensive pass interference, especially in real time. Obviously, in slow motion, you slow it down. His hand was on his face, but I don't really think it affected Trent McDuffie. I think he was just kind of falling already. That's why his helmet was near AJ Brown's hand. And just unfortunate. They would have converted on fourth down, but I mean, outside of that Jalen Hurts interception in the passing game, which was also on third down, technically it was kind of like an arm punt. It wasn't a horrible interception. I didn't hate it. It still pinned him inside of the 6 yard line. Now maybe you get a couple yards, you get to try a Jake Elliott field goal, but I mean, it was a
I
bad.
think they were
It
still in
wasn't.
field goal range, regardless.
I think it was like right on the brink, but yeah, yeah. Regardless, possibility of 3 points there at least. That's taken off the board, but outside of that interception in the passing game, I think, they pretty much were able to do all they wanted because the Chiefs were selling out so much and shutting down Saquon Barkley. I think he had what, like 25 carries for 50 something yards, only averaged 2 yards a carry. And we kind of knew going into this game, you mentioned it a lot last episode, like you're gonna have to sell out, you're gonna have to stop Saquon Barkley. And, down the stretch, these last couple games, especially up to this moment, we haven't really seen anyone be able to do that. The Rams came out and said they were going to do it. Saquon goes for 200. The Commanders said they were going to come out and do it. Saquon goes 60 yards on the first play. I think the Chiefs were, the first team down the stretch to kind of successfully stop and sell out on the run, but with that, that just leaves a bunch of one-on-one opportunities on the outside. And when you got receivers like AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert had a quiet game, but a couple big catches in big spots. Like, and even Saquon getting him involved in the passing game, he had a couple nice receptions to where, if you can't run it, he's such a threat with the ball in his hands. You just get him the ball any way you can. So I think the Eagles passing game really took advantage of a defense that kind of seemed too focused on, one aspect of the game. And I believe that Chiefs defense and Spags and what they were doing over there in KC, they kind of felt like everyone else and was like, if we're losing this game, we're gonna have to lose from Jalen Hurts' arm and his legs. And I think he proved more than enough that we're more than just a one-dimensional team, that we were just running because we have Saquon Barkley, who's the best running back in the league and just had a historical season. But if you want me to pass, I can pass as well. And we saw glimpses of that throughout this year. The big game against the Steelers when, tensions were rising between Brown and Hurts, a lot of question marks there. He comes out. They both have a really big game. We saw in week 1 against the Packers that offense was really opened up. Jalen Hurts throwing the ball all over the field. So we knew it was there. And obviously, with these skill positions and these players, we knew what was capable. But I just think once again, in the biggest moments, Jalen Hurts, he's gonna have a couple mistakes, a couple bad plays. You saw the interception, you saw the missed throw or miscommunication down the left sideline between him and AJ Brown. But if you can live with a couple of bad plays, he's not perfect. No one is. Everything else in that game is going to be clean. He's a super, super good decision maker when he's back there and when he's able to throw the ball on time, in rhythm, when he gets the ball out of his hands quick and decisive and making those, smart reads. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And the deep ball, you saw it once again. Smitty on that deep ball. I mean, throw of the game. Brady said it
That
himself.
was a
Throw of his
dud.
life. Like it's something we've seen all season. And I just thought it was really funny. Jamar Chase posted that picture on the story that went a little viral. It was like the Eagles beating up on the Bengals and like the little Bengal mascot on the side, like sitting there recording it. I'm like, we literally did that to the Bengals as well. Like, I don't know why he's celebrating that. Like, Smitty had a touchdown very similar to the one he had against the Chiefs, where Hurts hit him on a deep post
So
over
did
the middle and he
everyone in the
caught.
league against the
Yeah, that's
Bengals.
that's what I'm saying. So like, I
He
mean,
was
I
just
get
happy
it,
the
Chiefs,
Chiefs
but
lost.
it's just like,
Yeah.
the blind leading the blind. You feel me? Like they both took a L to the Eagles, so I'm not sure if I want to be rooting for that. But Jamar Chase is arguably the best receiver in the league. He can do what he wants, but yeah, offensively,
No.
I like that. Even though the run game wasn't really working, Kellen Moore stayed with the run game, kind of just to make the Chiefs even, make them honest, and they were able to get that big play action shot. So, I mean, a great, great game all around, especially from the offense. Hurts once again proved, in the biggest moment, he's gonna play his best game.
I think with the thing with the Spags and that Chiefs defense, shutting down Saquon, it can only last for so long when you're losing the time of possession like they did. Sure, you could shut down Saquon. Sure, you could limit the passing game a little bit, but at some point, you got to swing that time of possession. And when the Eagles are dominating it like that, controlling the ball all game, and you're leaving these DBs, and you got these 7, 8 man boxes, and you're leaving those boundary guys one on one. It's tough. Would you have liked to see L'Jarius Sneed still on the Chiefs in that game? Maybe.
But I mean,
Is
McDuffie's been so good all
no,
year. Like that's something
McDuffie
you would,
has,
yeah.
but McDuffie and Sneed out there both at the same time. Sure,
Mhm.
it would have helped, but when you're losing that time of possession like you did, it's something so bad that even if Jalen Hurts wasn't playing good football, which I think he played really good football, I still think a bad quarterback in that game could easily have beaten the Chiefs because they had that ball for the majority, if not, I mean, I'm not sure what the official time of possession was, but it felt like they had the ball the entire game, and it wasn't even close. It was 3 and outs on the Chiefs' part. They struggled to get first downs, and I think they had like one first down in the first quarter, and that was it. But
I don't think they had a first down until
first
the
down,
third quarter.
third,
Think so.
I take it back then. Maybe it was a first down on a penalty. Maybe that's what it
Yeah,
was. But yeah, they weren't moving the ball at all. They couldn't get past midfield. And when you're just giving the ball right back, I mean, you're giving so many chances to the opposing team. It doesn't matter. And the fact that Jalen Hurts was playing good football is why you saw them take such a huge lead. Um, and through that game, absolutely out of reach. Kind of reverting back to the Jamar Chase thing, he talks a lot of smack, and it usually never pays off. So I want to say that he loves to talk his talk, but usually never works, man. Just ask Denzel Ward how that went for Jamar Chase. And he talked about the
typical
Browns, but
typical Browns fan just got to find a way to make themselves
101
relevant
yard, 100
during
yard
Super
pick
Bowl week,
six.
you know. Yeah, I mean, time of possession, that was a really, really big thing. I totally agree with what you were saying there. And well, I like what the Eagles were doing earlier because you saw in the AFC Championship game, especially, against the Bills to where they were playing Josh Allen, they were able to set up these, crazy blitzes, the corner blitz to win the game, a lot of exotic
Mhm.
looks. That's what Spags wants to do. I like how earlier on that Eagles offense was going with tempo, not really giving this Chiefs team to kind of set up and get all their, crazy exotic blitzes, the like stuff that's complex. It's gonna take, a couple extra seconds to set up rather than, okay, let's just line up and, base cover two or, run just a regular cover four shell or whatever. Like that's super easy with Spags and they're dialing this stuff up. You got, the right side linebacker dropping back in coverage and the backside corner in the slot, he's sending pressure. Like you got to set that up. And I like how earlier on and throughout the game, that Eagles offense was moving with tempo, not really letting that Chiefs defense get comfortable and get set into the play call that they really want. Like, yeah, they still might get it off, but they're gonna have a lot. You're gonna be thinking they're gonna be moving around. You can't really get set as much as you want, especially against this Eagles team, to where if you're out of one gap, if you're one way out, or someone's not lined up exactly where they need to be. I mean, Jalen Hurts has the easiest job in the world to where he can just change to a run play and hand it to Saquon and watch him run for a 50-yard touchdown. So I think playing with tempo was really, really important earlier on, especially to get that lead, to keep this Chiefs defense on their heels, keep them guessing, don't let them get set fully, don't let them, scheme up these exotic blitzes, these, A-gap pressures or off the edge. We know the Eagles have struggled with a little bit throughout this season. So a great job by Kellen Moore in that offense to kind of know that, we want to get moving quick. We want to move fast. Don't let these guys have time to set up and get into these super complex calls that they have. And I think offensively, especially earlier on, they did a great job. Now, I'm sure it would have gone on the entire game, but like you mentioned, I mean, they go up 17-0 in the second quarter. Then you could kind of slow things down. You kind of want to take that clock down. You're not really worried about scoring or trying to keep up with Patrick Mahomes. You're worried about keeping the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. And I also think they did a really good job, staying aggressive even though they had the lead. Hence that big Devontae Smith shot. So I mean, when you're playing against Mahomes, and I'm sure everyone watching the game, me included, was like, they're up 17-0. It's like there's still a chance, bro. Like you
Yeah,
never
he
know with
was
Mahomes. It's 24-0 at halftime. You're like, it's a good lead, but they still got a
Brady
half
in the
of football
booth, the
left. Like
NFL script. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh,
exactly, exactly. So I'm glad the Eagles were able to lock in, see that we're playing the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Like this is a Super Bowl. We got to go all out. We got to put our foot on their neck, and we got to keep the foot on the pedal and don't give this Chiefs team the slightest chance of momentum, the slightest glimpse of hope. Don't, let them get any feelings that, all right, here's our shot. Eagles offense kind of just, oh, they're taking off the brakes. This is where we can attack now. I think they did a great job the entire game, keeping their foot on the pedal and keeping the ball away from Patrick Mahomes, which is, you know, another recipe for success.
yeah. And I think the one time Spags did dial up one of those blitzes was at offsides that the Chiefs shot themselves in the foot to where they did get that pressure on Jalen and force that sack. And, the penalty, automatic first down. And I think the Eagles ended up scoring points on that drive. And sort of, it was one of those plays where you're like, okay, Spags dialed it up. But in the end, it just didn't matter lining up off sides. That's minimal stuff. That's, training camp football right there. That's not even training camp. That's football basics, man. That's youth
Poor
pee wee.
execution.
Yeah, pee wee football, and it just didn't work out for the Chiefs when they tried it. Even so, and a little bit earlier, you mentioned that Eagles offense and the pass catchers. I think Jahan Dotson. I think he played a big role in this game, man. Some crucial catches, not many, but when he did, it seemed like big times. He obviously had that one touchdown where he was down at the goal line. Obviously, the tush push early in the football game, but getting the number three receiver involved, I mean, technically you could say he's the four because of Philly Goddard at the tight end position, but I think he had a big game, another acquisition that turned out, to play a solid role in this postseason. I think he had the touchdown in the first game, uh, the divisional round for the
Against the
Eagles.
Packers. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so he was making plays and, a guy that was last year was supposed to be that number one with that connection with I think it's Sam Howell. So he certainly played a solid role. And then obviously those two guys on the outside, AJ Brown. I was like, is he gonna throw a tantrum on the sideline? It was after that one drive and they one had caught the touchdown pass. So clearly he was like told Kellen give him the ball and I mean it worked out. So and I think the offense played perfectly. I like how they didn't shy away from the run, even though Saquon didn't have a tremendous game or even a decent game. Kept the defense on their toes, still had to account for the run. When you do that, man, it opens up the game and makes it so much easier for Hurts to have a big game like he did. And I think Kellen Moore did a real good job play calling. And I know you're giving credit to your boy Sirianni leading the Eagles, but I always wonder, man, next season, what happens with the Eagles if Sirianni, they don't get that big season out of them again. Sirianni might be right back in that hot seat, but I think Kellen Moore was the huge reason of the Eagles' success this year offensively, being able to call plays, and obviously now head coach of the New Orleans Saints. I think it was named today or yesterday.
Mm.
He's saying that is the last win in the Superdome he'll have in 2025. So pretty funny, man. Win the Super Bowl, and now that's your home field for the rest of the season. So I think Kellen Moore deserves a lot of credit for that Eagles offense and their success and his ability to call plays this season for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Jahan Dotson. He did have a big game, and you were like, "Oh, maybe it wasn't many catches." Yeah, for Jahan Dotson, two is many catches. I don't think he's had a multiple reception game since I think like week three or something crazy like that, like in the beginning of the year, basically. He's pretty much just good for that one big catch. He's made a bunch of, kind of big key moment plays, but that was pretty much it. You mentioned, had early touchdown against Green Bay in the playoffs. That kind of got it started for the Eagles. He had that one crazy, jump ball catch against the Jags when they were wearing the Kelly green. That was a really big play. Like he's had a couple like memorable like big moments, but he's never really been able to string too many catches together. And yeah, you mentioned that first pass was called just short. He down at the one in the first quarter, but called a touchdown on the field. Knee was short. But yeah, you mentioned a big play kind of got the Eagles in scoring in scoring position first, able to get the first points on the board for Philly. And yeah, that was because of Jahan Dotson. When you have someone as talented as him, who was, a former first round pick, looked at as, possibly could be a possible number one receiver coming in, was hoping to be a solid number two for Terry McLaurin. Well, you look at somebody with that kind of talent, that pedigree coming out of Penn State. Now he's a number three receiver. He's getting your third best cover guy, maybe like you even mentioned, fourth best cover guy. Someone as a former number one pick was able to be a number one receiver in college. Like that skill is just going to be able to translate. So he was able to find success, and then he had another, I believe, caught like a little slant crossing route earlier on as well, like picked up a couple yards. So big Jahan Dotson game, and I'm right there with you. Saquon didn't have the biggest game on on the ground rushing wise, and you could arguably say he had a bad game rushing. But you look at his total body of work that game in the passing game. I think he had I want to say like 40 or 50 yards receiving on I think maybe like five catches around there. And then in pass protection, he was excellent. A lot of, spags, they want to blitz the A gap, blitz the corner. Saquon did a great job scanning and picking up a blitz and just putting a hit on a guy and taking that hit off of Jalen Hurts and giving him just enough time. So overall, Saquon Barkley, I think, played an amazing job when you look at, the running back position beyond just running the ball. And then you mentioned the big question, man, the offensive coordinator. And we kind of saw, the same thing happen 2 years ago with Jonathan Gannon, although we didn't win, but, the game in Arizona, he takes the Cardinals head coaching job. So it's kind of like he just stays in Arizona. Although I did see a report saying that Kellen Moore flew back to Philly with the team, but I believe he left already and is on his way to New Orleans, as you mentioned. He's the new head coach for the Saints, and I agree. I think it started off a little slow earlier on in the year with the offense. What didn't kind of seem like they were on the same page, but down the stretch, I think Kellen Moore was really creative. He had a couple good calls, and I think, the last two games against the Commanders in the NFC Championship and then in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, I think he saved his best two games for last. I think his running scheme, and you got to give credit to Jeff Stoutland as well, the offensive line coach and run game coordinator. Him and Kellen Moore had a lot of success all season, obviously with Saquon in the big game, but down the stretch, Kellen Moore was definitely able to scheme out some good stuff. He was able to find some success, so it's going to be disappointing to see him walk out the door. But my biggest concern is, I think Jalen Hurts hasn't had the same coordinator for 2 years. I think he's only had it once since high school, and I believe it's his 10th new coordinator in 9 years, going all the way back to him at Alabama. And funny enough, I believe Shane Steichen was the one that was there for 2 years. And I know I said I wasn't gonna mention 2022 Hurts, but when he had that big season, Steichen was there for back-to-back years, and we kind of saw him comfortable in that system. So definitely some question marks around what's gonna happen there. Kind of the buzz or what everyone expects is going to happen earlier on just because, in terms of the offseason, like, yeah, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but they're at the very, very end of this process. Like the combine is literally in 2 weeks, draft coming up in about a month or so, or 2 months, free agency in about a month, in the beginning of March. So, I mean, a lot of these other teams that didn't make the playoffs or lost early, they kind of got a head start on all of this, and they've been able to do some of their homeworks prepping for the next season. Whereas, teams like the Chiefs, like the Eagles, even you want to mention the Bills and Ravens, they've been kind of focused on postseason football. So for the Eagles, what I've been seeing, what I've been hearing, kind of the lead candidate right now, there's a bunch of names out there, but I think they're gonna kind of go with the promote within once again. And I think Kevin Patula, who is the passing game coordinator and offensive assistant or like assistant head coach, I think they're gonna go with him as the next offensive coordinator. And simply because he's been there the entire tenure of Nick Sirianni, so he's kind of have familiarity with that offense. He has some some similarities and stuff. Like he's been in the building. Jalen Hurts will be familiar with kind of what he likes and what he wants to do in that offense. And I think he'll be able to learn from all those other coordinators that they have in there. He's been able to, take something from Shane, take something from Kellen Moore, Brian Johnson. We all wanted him fired, but take something from him. He's been a part of a really good coaching staff that's been helping Jaden Daniels there in Washington. So obviously there's something there. And I think that'll be the best bet, obviously, at this point of the season. Kind of all the other coordinators and everyone who's looking for a job, it's pretty much already been taken up. Now, I know there's a couple names out there. Bobby Slowick, who was the coordinator for the Texans. I know he's a name that's been floating around, but I just think at this point, to kind of get things moving, to get things kind of just in terms of getting ready for the offseason, I think you just keep somebody that's already been in there in the building. It'll be a smooth transition. He's been there the same time as Nick Sirianni. So been a part of that coaching staff, familiar with everything and everyone in the building. Yes, it'll be Jalen Hurts learning a new system once again, but I don't think it'll be vastly different from what, they were running this past season or, what he's been accustomed to the last couple of years. So I think, that familiarity, they'll try to keep him in the building. And you mentioned Nick Sirianni being on the hot seat next season. Well, I don't know if that's going to happen because this is his last year in the contract. This is his contract year. And I mean, what more could you ask for being a coach or a player? I mentioned some of the free agents coming up. I mean, you just go out there and dominate the Chiefs during the Super Bowl. I mean, That's like putting a giant gold star right on your contract. That's definitely putting a couple more zeros behind your contract. He's definitely going to get paid. So I think sometime coming up within the next few weeks or in the offseason, I think we see an extension for Nick Sirianni. I think at this point, ups and downs, whether you like it or not, talking junk to the fans, not calling plays. I think if you are Howie Roseman, that's one thing you put in his contract. Don't let him call plays. We've seen the offense under him multiple times, hasn't looked good. But in terms of, being a leader, getting the guys ready, being, making sure the guys are bought in and putting players in the right position to succeed, evaluating talent, like everything other than calling plays, I think Nick Sirianni has done an excellent job. He's got all these guys bought in every single week after the buy-in, even including the buy. Like those guys have been ready, and I think you also have to give him some credit to where, he could have been one of those coaches where, oh, like I have to call plays or I am a play caller. Like he's given up play calling multiple times, and obviously that's led to a bunch of success for this team. So as much as I like to dog on him, and I've talked, I've said all I needed to say about Nick Sirianni. I think, especially after this last Super Bowl and this last season, especially what he was able to do down the stretch, you got to give him his credit, and I think he's well deserving of his contract extension. And I believe, bro, he's like, if you look up the stats or something, I think he's like I want to say like fifth or sixth, like winningest coach of all time. I think he's the only coach to go to the Super Bowl in two of his first four seasons. Like in terms of like winning football games, like that's all he's been doing, since he's been here with the Philadelphia Eagles. So at some point he's doing something right, so I definitely think you see an extension there, maybe 3 or another 4 years in that ballpark. And I saw they were saying the extension might be north of what Ben Johnson got on the market to become the head coach for the Chicago Bears. So Nick Sirianni could be in for a nice little payday, and I think it's well deserved. And I, especially if you're Howie, you want to keep this kind of core together. Like Jalen Hurts, he's 26 years old. Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, they're under contract for the next couple years. Saquon Barkley is going to be here. A bunch of rookies contributing all over the place on the defensive side of the ball. Like you have a young core, and I'm not going to sit here and say the Eagles are going to be the next dynasty of the NFL, but with the pieces that they have and, where they're set going forward, I definitely think they can continue to make runs at the Super Bowl, and they're going to be one of the better teams in the NFC for the next, couple years going forward. So why not keep Nick Sirianni? The players like him. Everyone's bought in, and clearly what he's doing is working. So I definitely think we'll see that Nick Sirianni extension come there, this upcoming offseason.
Wow, man, it's I never thought I'd hear you say that, but yeah, I
Neither did
got
I, bro.
all
Neither
my
did
Nick
I.
Sirianni agenda came from you. But I was just saying, if next season wasn't a good season, subpar, missed the playoffs, then maybe the next season he's in the hot seat. Obviously
In
not
two
next year.
years, maybe,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
at that point, is any coach in the
yeah,
NFL. That's
any
just
I
that's how it
agree.
goes. You know
I
what I'm
agree,
saying?
but
Yeah.
um yeah, it's just my typical from you in
Yeah,
terms
that's
of
why
the
I
fire.
can't be too mad at it, bro, because your Nick Sirianni hate stems from me, and I get it. I understand.
Literally, man. If I didn't hear it every week for the past 2 years, maybe it'd be different, but
Yeah.
you know,
Those are some, dark days from a 10-6 football team that lost in the wild card round. There's some teams that, would
you
die for that
started
kind of
like 10-0,
season. So
didn't you, or something?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some franchises out there that would, die for that kind of season. So I you got to look at things in perspective.
Yeah, man. You got any last takes? Anything you want to talk about, man?
No, man, that's pretty
This is
much
your
it. It's
Super Bowl.
just it's unfortunate, that the season has to end, man. I mean, it's just this season can just keep going on and on. Like it was a great season, it's you never want to see a good thing end, but you know
I
the
can't be
saying,
happier
man.
for next season, man.
You
I'll
know the
tell you what.
saying, don't be sad, it's over. Be happy, it happened. So
Be
I'm
glad it
happy the Eagles
happened.
won. I'm happy the Eagles, got it done. And it was a pretty interesting season. But yeah, I think that defense, kind of what I've been harping on pretty much all season. big reason, especially compared to last season. Shout out Vic Fangio, getting all those guys ready. And yeah, man, I should be an interesting off season coming up. NBA right around the corner. We'll definitely get into that. March Madness
All-Star
will,
game's about to come up. Yeah, March Madness,
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
It's that time. Big March, man. It's some of the best time in basketball, March Madness. So
Yep.
definitely looking forward to that one, man. Obviously, we'll get into hoops. I think what All-Star game end of the month,
All,
um,
end of the month, end of the week.
end of the week.
Yeah, All-Star games this weekend.
It is. Um, it already like halfway through February, bro. It doesn't feel like that, but I guess
Yeah.
time is flying this month. All right, man. Your
Which is weird
Eagles.
because I mean, off topic, to me, January went it was kind of long. It felt like it was kind of dragged out, but yeah, February is kind of moving.
I have no perception of time. Um, we just I don't. Every week feels the same, but you get to go off happy right in your off-season sunset, soak it
Yep, yep.
in.
Hopefully,
Um,
next
off-season
episode,
talks.
next
Go ahead.
episode, I'll be sporting my Philadelphia
Dodgers.
Eagles Super Bowl gear, my Super Bowl champs gear.
It won't
Yeah.
be in. I'll tell you what, it won't be in. As someone
How you
that's
know? When your team
ordered
won the Super Bowl and you ordered it,
the NBA championship, but um,
what, 15 years ago when the Heat won? Come on, bro.
I'm just telling you that thing
Yo,
took a month,
Amazon,
bro.
fam, Amazon was not moving back then the way they do
It
now, fam.
Amazon, that's where you got
Or
it.
shipping, like UPS, all
It's
that,
just fanatics, bro. Come
fam.
on, dude. I know that's where you got it from.
Shit, moving. I got it from NFL Shop, fam. You know, as
Yeah,
soon as the
it's
game over,
fanatics,
they be
bro.
like
It's
scan a little
fanatics.
code.
Yeah.
Yes, fam. Yeah.
All right. Would you use Philly 25 for 25% off? Like
No, I think it was 24. It was like NFL 24 or something like that. Like I got free
free
shipping, I think.
shipping.
I don't know.
Classic NFL, bro. Um,
Yeah, I ain't complaining.
I know you're not. You
New
should
hoodie
have
and a
wore.
tee on the
You
way,
should
man.
have. Should I throw up the little picture, man?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. The Eagles fit. I should have wore it
Yeah.
again.
S
I should
s
have.
Send it to me, bro. I'll throw it in at the end
It's
if you wanna.
yeah, it's that time, man. Was decked out for the game, bro. I had the Slim Reaper tee. I've worn that on the show a couple times. Had the vintage Mike Vick Reebok Eagles jersey,
You didn't
little
say
Eagles
vintage. That was a
blanket.
youth large.
Vintage, fam. 2011. That's vintage at this point, fam.
Oh
And then the
man.
little throwback Eagles snapback, fam.
Yeah, I'll put
Had to
it up
fit
there,
on,
man.
bro. Had to fit on. It
All
worked.
right, all right, AB. It did, bro. It's like came a long way from when you took off your Eagles jersey week one in Brazil, and then popped
Yeah.
out.
I didn't know if I wanted to wear it or not. You see what I'm saying? So, hey, man,
Yeah, man, go to
came
go.
a long way.
Yeah, that feels like yesterday though. Somehow that Brazil game, but
That was a fun game though. Like, I
it
mean,
was the atmosphere we were at. It
had
was good, man.
in terms of the Eagle game offensively, it had all the big hits were played. Had
Yeah,
the Saquon big touchdown,
he
AJ
told me to
Brown,
take that
Smitty
AJ.
got
I think it's
involved.
Saquon had two, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a passing and a receiving touchdown.
Yeah, that was where I said Jaden Reed. No, was it Jaden Reed? Who
He
had
had
the
a
other
big game.
drops? Nah,
Jeremy he had
it was
a
Wicks. It was Wicks. So his
Wicks.
drop.
Yeah,
He was slipping all over the field.
yeah, that feeling
Um,
was terrible.
go to go.
Speaking of a terrible field, real quick before you end, we
Super
saw what
Bowl
happened.
2022.
Hey, I'm just saying that was
Okay,
a
Chauncey. All
big
right,
part.
Chauncey.
I'm not saying this or that. You feel me? I wasn't on the field. I didn't get to test it myself. I couldn't tell you, but based off what the players were saying, based off what Josh Sweat, all the pass rushers were saying, like you saw Josh Sweat, he 2.5 sacks, 6 pressures, huge game. Field wasn't slippery. All I'm saying. I
Um,
mean, hey man, the results speak for themselves.
hey, while we're talking about a bunch of BS, bro, what was your rating of K Dot? One
Oh,
to
the
10.
halftime show?
Yeah.
Man, I was indifferent. Like it was cool for what it was, but like, come on, bro. We in the Big 25, fam. Who really listen to Kendrick Lamar anymore, bro? Like, I'm just being real,
A
fam.
lot of people, bro.
Like, fam, he didn't
I'm
play none
lower
of
than
that
you. You're
Section
talking about I'm
80.
indifferent. He didn't do any of that though.
No, that's
And
what I'm saying. Like, we didn't hear no, like, where he could have played Money Trees,
no,
Good Kid, in
no,
that city. I'm like,
no,
Vintage Kendrick,
nothing.
like when he was hot. That's what I,
He could have
me
even played like
personally.
loyalty. Like I would have been fine with that. It- our boy
That's the
Nate sent. I think you might have saw it, but it was because he was signed to
conspiracy.
TDE, so he gets none of the royalties. But I'm like,
Mm,
dude, you're already getting paid millions to go perform in the Super Bowl. You're already exposing like you play not like us, paired with what the money trees, the ADHD, the swimming
mm.
pools. I would have been happy with that, bro. And you said you were indifferent. That thing was a 3 out of 10. That was one of the worst Super Bowl performances I've seen.
Nah, I just said that because, like, bro, from like the Kendrick Lamar I enjoy listening
We,
to was like old
yes.
Kendrick. Like before he,
I mean, we're
like
both the
I kind of
same.
knew he wasn't gonna play none of that just because not like us and all his stuff. Now he just dropped like that's what's big, that's what's popping. Like that's cool, but the K dot we grew up on, man. That's that real music, man. Real music. Unfortunately, he didn't play any of it.
He's gonna play
What's
some
that?
rigor
Yo, what's that?
mortis,
What's that? Yeah, rigor mortis. The one song he had with Drake, what is it?
poetic justice.
Poetic Justice. Yeah, they were saying at to end the show he should have came out. Drake would have came out, played Poetic Justice, and that would have been like, you know, the grand
Squash the
finale or
beef.
whatever. Yeah, squash the beat. That shit would have went crazy. But
It would have. It would have.
I would have took Poetic Justice. I think he played what like DNA or something like that, and he played
Yeah.
one other like semi older song.
There's
What
DNA. And that was like what, 2016, like
DNA, and then
DNA.
there was another one he played. I
I
can't
don't
remember,
know.
but not like from his newer, but it wasn't one of his like, bigger songs. But yeah, I mean it was cool. Like it was Kendrick. It was cool to see Kendrick out there. But yeah, man, I wasn't really I mean it is what it is, man. Like I kind of knew he wasn't gonna play none of that old stuff. Like he wasn't as big as he was now. So obviously, the target audience wasn't as big to what he performed today.
Nah, man. Yeah, I didn't think it was good at all, but it is what it is. I kind of figured he wasn't playing that either, but it could have been way better um than it actually was. And
I
people
agree, it
want
could
to talk
have.
about the subliminals, this and that. Like it's a Super Bowl halftime show. I'm here to like bump some music, like see a
Yeah,
good
for
performance. I'm not here to decipher um subliminals and stuff like that. But um yeah, go to go 125. You got anything you want to say? 125, big Super Bowl 25 just happened, man.
Sir, go Birds, man. Go Birds. We getting ready for next season. Don't worry.
All right, man. Go to
Real
go.
quick,
So
real quick, real quick.
way
Off the
too
top of
early
your head,
prediction.
just
What?
real quick, off the top of your head, top five QBs going into next season.
Top five QBs in order or not?
No order, just top five QBs going into
Mahomes,
next season.
Mahomes, um, Josh, Lamar, Burrow. I'm gonna throw your boy. And last time I threw your boy in there, bro, I put him at two. If you remember, after the 2022 Super Bowl, I put Jalen Hurts two in my preseason prediction, and he had the worst like I don't want worst season, but whatever. It was bad. It made me look dumb. But I put Hurts there, man. I think Hurts just doesn't get enough credit sometimes. I like his game. A lot of people want to call him corny for his quotes and stuff like that, but I think he's a true proven leader in the league that keeps his composure. And at the quarterback position, that's something you have to do. You got to, learn, forget it. You got to have that amnesia at the quarterback position. I think Hurts does a great job of that. And then obviously, paired with the run game, he's a good passer too. And he's only improved since coming into the league as a passer in the pocket. We've seen that him grow as a quarterback. So I'm not mad if you throw him, five. I'm not mad if you want to put guys like, I mean, I'm not sure Herbert, like what? That's your boy. That was your MVP
It
coming.
is. It was. But no, I think going into next season, yeah, going into next season, way too early. Top five quarterbacks based off this past year. I'm with you. I will also go Mahomes, Hurts, Lamar, Josh Allen, Burrow. In no order, I definitely think those are the kind of definitive top five. And, right there on the outside looking in, you got Jaden Daniels. I
I
wouldn't
knew
be
you were gonna
surprised
say
if he
that.
jumps in. Uh, your
You're throwing
boy Jared
Stroud in the
Goff is
top
right
10.
there.
I
Stroud, does he have a bounce back season? Like, I think, after the past couple years where it kind of felt like, you know, we were seeing guys like Jameis Winston, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Daniel Jones, like a lot of these just, bad quarterbacks, Drew Lock. We got some real talent now coming back into the league, man. Some exciting, whether it be young
Elite.
players or
Shout out Drew Lock, man.
some
Shout out
veterans
Drew
that
Lock.
turned it around. I think we definitely got some better quarterback talent in the league right now. So it should be a fun next season, the next couple years if everyone continues to play as well as we hope they do.
That Drew Lock. The Browns are not drafting in the number 2 spot. Shout out to Lock, man. He's a good quarterback. The rest of them, sure. Shout out Drew Lock, man. Shador
Okay,
Sanders,
so
first team
so shout
visit,
out Drew
Cleveland
Lock.
Browns.
Shout out Drew Lock. He's a good quarterback. The Browns signed him in the offseason. He's your starting quarterback next
All right,
season. How you
man.
feeling?
We're gonna wrap up the episode after that because I don't like Drew Lock as my quarterback, but
Oh, I thought he was a good quarterback.
I'll
Exactly.
take I'll take Deshaun Watson back at that point. It's the same quarterback at this point, but um, yeah, it's shout out Shador, man. Miles stay. We'll get into that more, but go episode 125. Go to go pod on TikTok, man. Go to go everything streaming wise. And until next week, we'll be back with another episode, man. Peace.